You're here because, well, you want to cut through the noise and get right to the heart of things quickly.
That's right.
And today we're looking at something that really touches every single one of us, something fundamental.
Absolutely.
It's this profound connection between the food we eat and, the success we actually experience in life.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just about health and isolation, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's how your diet fuels your achievements, even how long you live.
Yeah, exactly. Well, our mission here really is to take your sources, the articles, the research, maybe your own notes, and just distill the essential insights.
Find the core truths.
The core truths about optimizing your nutrition, finding your own version of perfect food, and how that can genuinely be a game changer for, well, everything. Your well-being, your accomplishments.
And we're pulling from everywhere, aren't we? From ancient wisdom right up to the latest science.
We are. We're synthesizing across those different perspectives.
So forget the quick fixes, the fads. We're digging down to the bedrock here. Expect some real surprises as we unpack this.
Definitely.
So right out of the gate, maybe consider this. Could something as simple, as routine as our daily food choices, could that be the single most important thing for a fulfilling life? The foundation for everything else we want to build.
It's a really powerful question. And what's amazing is how both the distant past and the most current research seem to point in that direction. They offer compelling support for this idea.
Okay, let's get into this. This idea of food as our foundation.
Yeah, it's striking when you look back, just how consistently across vastly different ancient civilizations this concept emerged. The idea that food is essential for health, maybe even the primary form of medicine.
It wasn't just one culture figuring it out.
Not at all. It was widespread, a fundamental understanding, it seems.
Like, think about ancient Greece. Hippocrates, right? The guy we call the father of Western medicine. His famous line, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." I mean, that wasn't just poetry.
No, not at all.
He genuinely believed in balanced diets, natural foods, as the first line of defense for staying well. They even thought food could shape your temperament, your personality.
It's incredible. So the key insight there isn't just that they linked food and health, which maybe seems obvious now, but that they saw food as the primary tool, before we had all the pharmaceutical.
Right, the first medicine.
Exactly. And then you look at, say, traditional Chinese medicine, TCM. Same core belief. Food isn't just fuel. It's vital for creating balance, harmony in the body.
The whole warming and cooling foods idea.
Precisely. They had this complex system classifying foods by energetic effects, using them to treat specific ailments. Ginger for digestion, chrysanthemum tea for headaches. It's all built on that principle. He who takes medicine and neglects to diet wastes the skill of his doctors.
Wow. Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just them either. Ayurveda in India, right? Very focused on personalized diets for your individual dosha.
Tailored to the individual.
And even the ancient Egyptians, you look at the Ebers of Papyrus, they were using things like goose fat, honey, and remedies, showing a really early grasp of natural healing properties, maybe even anti-inflammatory stuff.
It really makes you wonder why this recurring theme. Across such different places, different times, it strongly suggests a kind of fundamental human insight, an intuitive grasp that what we put in directly shapes how we are.
Yeah. And you mentioned indigenous traditions too.
Right. We shouldn't overlook them. Often a very holistic view of food as physical and spiritual nourishment, tied deeply to their ecological knowledge, tech, and sustainable ways of living.
So it really hammers home that this food as medicine idea isn't some new wellness trend. It's ancient, deeply human.
Deeply human. And it's fascinating how our understanding has evolved, hasn't it? We started with these kind of observational, holistic views.
Then science came along.
Yeah, then we shifted towards modern scientific reductionism, breaking food down, calories, macros, vitamins, which was crucial. Absolutely essential for understanding the specifics.
But maybe lost some of the bigger picture.
Sometimes, yeah. It could lead to a more fragmented view. But what's really interesting now is we're seeing this return to more holistic and especially personalized approaches.
Right, things like nutrigenomics, microbiome research.
Exactly, which are actually bringing together that ancient wisdom about individuality with cutting-edge modern analysis. It's a convergence.
It's like we went full circle, but with better tools. From just knowing eat your veggies to understanding vitamin C, and now how that vitamin C interacts with your specific genes and gut bugs.
Precisely. And we had those key scientific moments along the way, of course. James Lind and scurvy.
Right. Figuring out citrus worked long before they knew why.
Or Lavoisier and metabolism, foundational stuff.
And Casimir Funk actually coining the term vitamin.
Yeah, these discoveries started to peel back the layers, revealing the essential biological role of food. And this is where it gets really interesting as we dive into the biological why behind all this.
Okay, so the basics. Macronutrients.
Yeah.
Carbs, fats, proteins. That's step one, right?
Yeah. Exactly, the big building blocks. Carbs and proteins give you about, 4 calories per gram. Lipids, fats, are more energy dense, around 9 calories per gram.
And that's our main energy source.
Primarily, yes. They get converted into ATP, which is like the energy currency for our cells, fuels everything we do. But crucially, they're not just fuel.
Right, protein for repair.
Yeah, tissue repair, muscle building, all the structural stuff. And fats are vital too, insulation, absorbing certain vitamins, key parts of our cell membranes. The takeaway is they're the fundamental building blocks and energy source, impacting everything right down at the cellular level.
Okay, so that's the macros. Then we've got the micros, vitamins and minerals. Needed in tiny amounts, but
absolutely critical. Think of them as like the spark plugs and the essential helpers. They act as coenzymes, catalysts, keeping all the bodily systems running smoothly. Growth, immunity, brain function, making hormones.
And deficiencies are still a big problem globally, right? Even with plenty of food around sometimes.
Huge problem. Things like iron, vitamin A, iodine deficiencies. They have really severe consequences, especially for kids. Anemia, blindness, brain development issues. It really highlights that just getting enough calories isn't enough.
You need the quality, the diversity.
Exactly, that concept of hidden hunger. You might feel full caloric adequacy, but you're starving for essential micronutrients.
So it really comes down to our individual cells, doesn't it? Trillions of them, all doing their jobs.
Precisely. Our bodies are these bustling cities of trillions of cells, constantly producing energy, clearing out toxins, repairing damage. But as we age, that cellular machinery, it can't slow down, become less efficient.
Things don't repair as quickly.
Right. And that's where good nutrition is so fundamental. Think about NAD plus SEN, for example. It's a key molecule involved in cellular energy, DNA repair, keeping our mitochondria working properly.
And diet affects NAD plus levels.
Definitely. A balanced diet, along with things like exercise, good sleep, managing stress, these all help maintain healthy NAD plus levels. It helps support healthy aging right at the source, at the cellular level. Think of NAD plus as a key player in keeping your cells youthful and energized.
So when we talk about finding your perfect food, it's really about giving those cells exactly what they need to function optimally.
You got it. It's supplying the right fuel, the right building blocks, the right helper molecules so your cells can do their jobs efficiently.
And that has knock-on effects everywhere else.
Absolutely. It cascades up. Better energy levels, stronger immune system, better resistance to disease, and ultimately, it impacts your longevity. It's the absolute bedrock of your biological well-being.
Okay, now this is where, for me, it gets really interesting. The brain connection. How does all this cellular stuff, this nutrition, impact how our minds actually work?
Yeah, this is a rapidly growing area of understanding. The connection between diet and mental well-being is incredibly direct. And it's not just, a feeling, it's deeply biological.
Right. I mean, we all know the sugar rush and crash feeling, but it's obviously way more complex than that.
Oh, absolutely. Diet directly influences neuronal function, how our brain cells work, and synaptic plasticity. That's basically how adaptable and how well your brain learns.
So learning, memory, focus.
All of it. Think about the brain's energy needs. It needs a steady supply of glucose. But the source matters hugely.
Yeah.
Low glycemic index foods, the ones that release sugar slowly.
Like whole grains, vegetables.
Exactly. They provide that stable energy. And studies show that leads to better attention, better memory, compared to the big spikes and crashes you get from, sugary drinks or refined carbs.
And protein's role here,
Yeah.
beyond just building muscle.
Absolutely vital for the brain. The amino acids from protein are the precursors, the raw materials for making neurotransmitters.
The brain's chemical messengers.
Right. Tryptophan becomes serotonin, crucial for mood. Tyrosine becomes dopamine, key for focus, reward, motivation. If your serotonin levels are low, for instance, that's linked to problems with learning, reasoning, memory.
Okay. And fats. We always hear about omega-3s for the brain.
Essential fatty acids, especially DHA, which is an omega-3, are fundamental structural components of our brain cell membranes. If you're deficient, it can impact everything from your eyesight to memory, cognition, and maybe even increase the risk of neurodegenerative diseases down the line.
Wow. Okay. And then there's the gut-brain axis.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm hearing about this constantly now.
It's a huge area. It's this fascinating two-way street, this communication network, mostly via the vagus nerve. Your gut and your brain are constantly talking.
And the bacteria in our gut are involved.
Critically involved. What's amazing is that the microbes living in our gut actually produce neurochemicals, including most of the body's serotonin.
Really? Most of it?
Yeah. So having a diverse, healthy gut microbiome, which thrives on things like fiber from plants, is fundamental for good mood and sharp mental processes.
So, flip side. A poor diet isn't just bad for your waistline, it can genuinely mess with your head.
Precisely. A diet high in processed foods, refined sugars, unhealthy fats, it can worsen stress, anxiety, depression. How? By causing inflammation, disrupting that delicate gut microbiome balance, leading to unhealthy cravings. It's a vicious cycle.
And it directly impacts thinking, too.
Directly. It can impair concentration, decision-making, even just reaction times. That sugar rush we mentioned, directly linked to attention difficulties.
Really makes you pause and think about, the rise in mental health challenges we see today. Could our modern diet be a major factor?
It's a significant possibility. The disruption of that gut-brain connection, the neurotransmitter imbalances caused by these highly processed, nutrient-poor diets, it could very well be contributing. There seems to be a correlation, at least, between rising processed food intake and rising mental health issues.
And this isn't just a new idea either, is it?
Not at all. Think about those old proverbs, those sayings.
You are what you eat.
Exactly. Or just the traditional wisdom about certain foods being good for the mind or spirit. These aren't just quaint sayings. They reflect this long-held cultural understanding, this intuition about the deep link between food and our whole well-being, mental included. A wisdom maybe we've kind of lost touch with.
Okay.
So now let's maybe shift gears a bit. Let's look at how this foundational role of nutrition actually fuels our ambitions, our drive.
Right. So we get that good food helps us feel okay, baseline. But how does it specifically help us, get stuff done, achieve goals?
Well, it's interesting because optimal nutrition isn't just about avoiding sickness. It's a direct performance enhancer.
Yeah.
Everything. Just think about sustained energy.
And that 3 p.m. slump is real. It can totally kill your afternoon.
Exactly. Our energy production, that ATP process we talked about, it's directly fueled by our food intake.
Yeah.
Getting a good balance of carbs, proteins, healthy fats that ensures a steady glucose release. It prevents those energy crashes.
Whereas junk food
Leads to fatigue, mental fog, reduced effectiveness, and something simple but crucial, hydration, often overlooked but so important for energy.
So it's not just about the calories in, but the quality of those calories for steady energy.
Precisely. It's the quality and the balance that give you that reliable energy to get through the day and actually pursue your goals. Those diets, high in refined carbs, low in protein, and healthy fats. They might give you a quick jolt, but the crash is almost inevitable even if you ate enough calories.
Okay, so consistent energy helps physically, but that focus piece, sharpening the mind, that's huge for achieving things too, right?
Absolutely. Directly linked. We touched on this, but it bears repeating. The brain needs stable glucose. Low GI foods are king here for sustained attention, memory, even complex tasks like math.
And the protein connection again.
Yeah, those amino acids are constantly needed to make neurotransmitters vital for concentration, learning, reasoning, memory. Even a slight dip in serotonin can impact how well you learn and remember things. And again, DHA from fats for brain structure deficiencies have real cognitive impacts.
So if I'm prepping for a big presentation or trying to learn something new, what I had for lunch actually matters. A lot.
It makes a profound difference. Poor food choices can directly interfere with concentration, decision-making, reaction times. That sugary snack might feel good for 5 minutes, but it can undermine your focus later.
And the gut-brain thing comes back here too.
Definitely. Your gut health and the level of inflammation in your body directly influence cognitive function. So dietary choices that mess with your gut or increase inflammation, they have immediate effects on mental clarity, learning ability. A sharp mind really does depend on a healthy gut and keeping inflammation low.
It's all so tightly woven together. Okay, so it's not just physical energy, not just mental clarity. It sounds like good nutrition empowers us on a deeper level, to actually go after what we want in life.
It really does. It's remarkable how this foundational role extends to our overall capacity for a fulfilling life. You see it reflected across cultures, this consistent wisdom equating health with, well, everything valuable.
Like those proverbs you mentioned.
Exactly, Virgil. The greatest wealth is health. The African proverb, health is wealth, Mahatma Gandhi. It is health that is real wealth. And that Arabian proverb is so powerful. He who has health has hope, and he who has hope has everything.
Wow. It's like they just knew intuitively that without that foundation of health, everything else is just harder. Much harder.
Precisely. A healthy diet leads to a more focused mind, a more positive outlook, higher energy levels, all critical for the sustained effort needed for any big goal, personal or professional.
Virginia Woolf said something like that too, didn't she?
She did. One cannot think well, love well, sleep well if one has not dined well. It perfectly frames health as the fundamental enabler of our potential. It's not just about feeling physically okay, it's about having the mental and emotional resources to chase your ambitions. A well-nourished body and mind are the real capital for ambition.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
If you're constantly dragging, feeling unwell, foggy, it's just really hard to find the drive, the focus.
Exactly. Think of that saying, self-care is not selfish. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. Or the Chinese saying, eating well is a form of self-respect. Taking care of your nutritional needs isn't indulgent. It's an investment in yourself. It equips you.
Equips you to achieve things.
Okay. It pays dividends everywhere.
Now let's maybe zoom out a bit further. Let's look at the long game. How our diets influence not just today, but the length and quality of our entire lives.
Right, longevity. So beyond feeling good day to day, how does food impact living a longer, healthier life?
Well, the blue zones offer some really fascinating clues here. These are those specific pockets around the world where people consistently live exceptionally long and healthy lives.
Yeah, I've heard of those. Okinawa, Sardinia, Nicoya in Costa Rica.
That's right. Nicoya, Ikaria in Greece, and even a community in Loma Linda, California. What's striking is, despite being geographically and culturally diverse, their traditional diets share some key common threads.
What are those commonalities? Overwhelmingly, they're plant-based. Lots of whole grains, legumes, beans, lentils, fruits, vegetables. Animal products are typically consumed sparingly. Small amounts, maybe on special occasions.
So meat isn't the centerpiece?
Generally not. In Okinawa, for instance, traditionally less than 1% of their diet was fish, meat, dairy, eggs. Their main staple was sweet potatoes.
Wow. And fermented foods played a role too.
They often do. Things like yogurt, certain cheeses, miso in Okinawa, natto. These provide beneficial probiotics for gut health. Another key thing is mindful eating.
Like the Okinawan harahachibu.
Exactly. Stop eating when you're about 80% full. This sort of gentle caloric restriction seems to have real benefits for metabolic health and aging. Plus, simple things. Good hydration, mostly water and traditional teas, and a distinct lack of processed foods.
So it's a pattern, not necessarily one magic food.
That's the crucial takeaway. The consistency of these dietary patterns across diverse cultures suggests there are universal healthy eating principles at play. It's more about the overall picture nutrient density, low inflammation, high fiber, than finding one single superfood or sticking to one rigid diet plan.
But it's a bit worrying that younger generations in those zones are losing these benefits as they adopt more Western diets, right?
It is worrying, and it's a powerful lesson. It shows just how impactful dietary shifts can be, potentially even overriding strong genetic predispositions for longevity. It underlines that these aren't just historical curiosities, they demonstrate active principles of how food impacts health across generations.
Yeah.
And it's not just the blue zones giving us these clues. Wider global research is also pointing strongly towards certain dietary approaches for extending lifespan.
So beyond the blue zones, what's the broader science saying about diet and how long we live?
Well, there's a really growing body of evidence strongly suggesting that healthy plant-based diets are powerful tools for lifespan extension. Large global studies show that people who consistently follow these kinds of diets tend to have a significantly lower risk of dying from any cause.
Any cause? That's significant.
It is, including major killers like cardiovascular disease and cancer. We're talking about a substantial reduction in overall mortality risk, maybe in the range of 17–24%.
That's compelling.
Yeah.
But you keep saying healthy plant-based. What's the difference between healthy and unhealthy?
That's absolutely critical. A diet based on refined grains, sugary drinks, maybe lots of processed fake meats. That's technically plant-based, but it's actually linked to an increased risk of dying early, maybe 28–36% higher risk.
Wow, so it's not just about ditching meat.
Not at all. The quality and the degree of processing of the plant foods are paramount. Think potato chips and soda versus whole grains, beans, fruits, and vegetables. Huge difference. The focus has to be on those whole, nutrient-dense foods.
Okay, so prioritize whole plant foods, minimize the processed stuff, whether it's plant-based junk or not.
Exactly. And the science behind why these healthy plant-forward diets work is becoming clearer. They generally improve things like cholesterol levels, triglycerides, insulin sensitivity, basically, our cardiometabolic health.
Makes sense.
They're rich in fiber, healthy fats, plant proteins, plus loads of antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds. These goodies help fight oxidative stress, that's cellular damage and chronic inflammation, and they foster a healthier gut microbiome. We see these benefits in diets like the Mediterranean, Nordic, traditional African patterns.
It just keeps coming back to whole, unprocessed foods, doesn't it? Okay, now you mentioned cellular damage.
Yeah.
How deep does this go? How does diet affect aging right down at the cellular level?
It's fascinating, actually. Our diet directly impacts fundamental components of our cells related to aging. Take telomeres, for example.
Those are the caps on our chromosomes.
Exactly. Protective caps. They tend to shorten each time a cell divides, and this shortening is seen as a biomarker of biological aging. Shorter telomeres are linked to increased risk for age-related diseases.
So shorter telomeres, faster aging, more risk.
Generally speaking, yes. And guess what? Diets rich in natural, unprocessed foods, fruits, veggies, whole grains, lean proteins are associated with maintaining longer telomere length.
Why?
Likely because these foods supply essential nutrients, antioxidants, and anti-inflammatory compounds that protect our DNA. Conversely, diets high in ultra-processed foods, they've been linked to shorter telomeres. It suggests they might actually accelerate biological aging.
And antioxidants are key here too.
Absolutely critical. They neutralize those damaging free radicals that cause oxidative stress, which can damage DNA and shorten telomeres. Those blue zone diets, packed with antioxidants.
Okay. And inflammation.
Chronic inflammation is increasingly seen as a central driver of many major diseases. Again, those blue zone style diets, full of anti-inflammatory compounds and probiotics that support gut health, help reduce systemic inflammation.
And processed foods do the opposite.
They tend to fuel inflammation, they disrupt the gut, cause blood sugar spikes and crashes, deplete antioxidants. It's a pro-inflammatory cocktail.
So our daily choices are either building cellular resilience or actively contributing to wear and tear.
That's a great way to put it. Even that Hara Hachibu practice, that gentle caloric restriction, is linked to reduced oxidative stress and slower aging by improving metabolic health and cellular repair pathways. So there's this direct, scientifically observable link between dietary patterns processed versus whole and cellular level damage. Oxidative stress, inflammation, telomere shortening. It's the science backing up that ancient food as medicine idea right down at the cellular level.
Amazing. Okay, so we've covered health, longevity, cellular aging. How does this translate into our professional lives, our economic well-being?
Right. This is where it gets very practical, very relevant to our everyday working lives. How does what we eat impact our performance on the job?
Does it really make that much difference?
Oh, the evidence is quite compelling. Research consistently shows a significant link between healthy eating habits and higher work productivity.
Really? Like quantifiable?
Yes. For instance, some studies suggest people with poor eating habits are something like 66% more likely to report lower productivity. And those who rarely eat fruits, vegetables, low-fat foods, may be over 90% more likely to experience major productivity loss.
Wow. That's significant.
It makes sense intuitively, right? Poor nutrition leads to lower energy, more sick days, difficulty focusing, all directly hindering work performance.
Whereas eating well
boosts concentration, fosters a more positive attitude, provides that sustained energy we talked about,
Yeah.
all contributing to being more effective at work.
Yeah.
Even just mindful eating during the workday can help digestion and keep energy stable.
So it's not just about physical stamina, it's mental clarity, resilience.
Exactly. Emotional stability, too. All directly impacting job performance and even career progression. You can almost think of good nutrition as a strategic asset for your career and for the economy as a whole.
A strategic asset. I like that. But what about the flip side? The cost of not eating well, the broader economic hit.
The economic burden is, well, it's staggering. Unhealthy eating and inactivity are leading global causes of death, driving chronic diseases like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, stroke, obesity.
And the cost of treating all that.
Immense. One analysis suggested the hidden costs of the global food system, mostly health-related, exceeded $10 trillion back in 2020. The health costs actually outweighed the economic value of the food itself.
10 trillion. That's almost unbelievable.
It is. And just looking at obesity-related costs, they're already trillions annually and projected to climb significantly higher, potentially reaching over 3% of global GDP by 2060.
And that's just direct healthcare costs.
No, that includes indirect costs too. Absenteeism, people missing work, presenteeism, people being at work but not fully functional due to health issues, premature death, disability benefits, it all adds up.
And what about the workers themselves trying to manage these conditions?
It's tough. Many workers with chronic conditions, often diet-related, report needing to manage them during work hours. But a lot don't disclose it, maybe due to stigma or fear. This can lead to skipped appointments, delayed care, missed opportunities at work, even negative feedback.
So my personal food choices have these huge ripple effects across the whole economy.
They really do. This massive economic burden makes individual diet choices a major macroeconomic issue. It highlights the urgent need to value preventative health through nutrition. A healthier population is fundamentally a more economically robust one.
And that presenteeism factor.
Yeah.
People struggling silently at work.
It's a huge, often invisible drain on potential. It really calls for a shift in corporate wellness, moving beyond token gestures to genuinely supporting employee health.
Okay, this really drives home the point that our health isn't just personal, it's, like you said, career capital.
Exactly right. In a competitive job market, your health so directly tied to diet is crucial human capital. And unfortunately, poor health is associated with a higher likelihood of job loss. Chronic conditions can really impede career progress. Missed hours, missed projects, maybe passed over for promotions. It can lead to negative performance reviews. We even see it in contexts like Medicaid work requirements, where poor health is a direct barrier to employment and getting benefits.
So letting my nutrition slide could actually make me less competitive, less secure in my job.
Precisely. It erodes that vital career capital. Makes you more vulnerable. On the other hand, actively maintaining optimal health through good food choices. That's a strategic investment in your professional future. It ensures you have the energy, the focus, the resilience to thrive.
Okay, a powerful argument.
So given all this, the health impacts, the economic realities, how do we actually navigate the modern food world? How do we find this perfect food state for ourselves?
Yeah, it feels harder than ever sometimes, doesn't it? With all the processed stuff everywhere, so convenient.
It is a major challenge. We've seen this massive global shift away from traditional diets towards, well, Western habits, driven by industrialization, globalization, and, yes, convenience. This has led to a huge increase in processed and particularly ultra-processed foods, or UPFs.
And we keep hearing UPFs are bad news. What exactly makes them so problematic? What defines them?
UPFs are really characterized by their industrial formulation. They often contain ingredients you wouldn't find in a home kitchen, things like hydrogenated oils, high fructose corn syrup, artificial flavors, colors, emulsifiers. They're typically high in refined sugars, unhealthy fats, sodium, and low in fiber and essential nutrients.
And the health risks.
They're significant. High consumption is strongly linked to obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, certain cancers. UPFs are now considered major contributors to premature death worldwide.
So they're not just empty calories, they're actively harmful.
They tend to promote chronic inflammation, disrupt that crucial gut microbiome we talked about, cause wild blood sugar swings, deplete the body's antioxidant stores, and can even damage blood vessel linings. Plus, those negative impacts on mental well-being, stress, depression links.
It's that paradox again. Too many calories, but not enough actual nutrition.
Exactly. Caloric overconsumption alongside nutrient deficiency. And tackling this requires more than just individual willpower. It's an environmental issue. We need broader policy changes, industry shifts, to make whole, unprocessed foods the easier, more accessible choice.
It feels like in chasing convenience, we've lost something important, like that connection to traditional ways of eating.
We really have. There's been a significant erosion of these heritage diets, and these aren't just collections of recipes. They're cultural expressions tied to customs, history, local environments. They're often inherently healthy, local, seasonal, unprocessed, nutrient-rich, and more sustainable, supporting biodiversity.
But globalization and cheap processed foods are pushing them out.
Largely, yes. Monoculture agriculture plays a role too. It's a huge loss, not just nutritionally, but culturally.
Are people trying to bring these back?
Yes, definitely. There are growing food sovereignty movements. efforts to integrate traditional ecological knowledge or tech, seed rematriation initiatives, often led by indigenous communities. It's a recognition that losing these traditional diets has profound consequences for public health and environmental sustainability.
So preserving these traditions could actually be part of the solution.
Absolutely. Revitalizing and promoting traditional food knowledge and practices offers real solutions for food security, better nutrition, and a healthier planet.
Okay, so looking ahead then, what does perfect food look like in the future? Is there one ideal diet we should all aim for?
That's the key question, isn't it? And the answer is pretty clearly no. There's no single universal ideal diet. Our needs vary so much.
Based on goals, age, activity.
Exactly. Goals, weight, age, sex, activity level, health conditions, medications. It's complex. This is where personalized nutrition, or PN, comes in. It's a really transformative approach.
Using our individual data.
Right. Using your unique data genetics, body measurements, biomarkers from blood tests, detailed nutrition info to tailor recommendations specifically for you to optimize your health, manage, or prevent disease.
So my perfect food might be quite different from yours, even if we seem similar on the surface.
Precisely. Fields like nutrigenomics, how food interacts with your specific genes, and epigenetics, how diet can influence gene activity without changing the DNA itself, are making these highly customized interventions possible.
It's like ancient wisdom meets big data.
In a way, yes. A return to recognizing individual constitution, but with incredibly precise modern tools. PN has huge potential to revolutionize preventative medicine, moving towards really targeted interventions.
Sounds amazing. But are there still barriers? It can't be easy for everyone to just adopt their perfect personalized diet.
Oh, absolutely. Huge challenges remain. Economic factors are massive. The cost of healthy food versus income. Accessibility, you even have access to fresh, nutritious food where you live.
Time constraints too, right?
Okay.
Preparing healthy food takes time.
Definitely. Time, social context, cultural norms, even psychological things like mood and stress heavily influence our choices. And on a bigger scale, we still face hurdles in scaling up sustainable, healthy food production, slashing food waste, improving global supply chains.
So getting to perfect food for everyone requires systemic change.
It really does. A fundamental shift towards sustainable food systems that prioritize producing nutritious food, cutting waste, and ensuring everyone can access it fairly.
Okay, so bringing this all home, this quest, this journey to find our own version of perfect food, it really feels like one of the most important things we can do.
Absolutely. History tells us, modern science confirms it, economics underscores it. It's fundamental. It's the bedrock for our health, our energy, our mental clarity.
It fuels our ambitions, sharpens our minds, helps us grow.
Exactly. It's strongly linked to living longer, healthier lives, right down to protecting ourselves. And it has that tangible impact on our work, our productivity, our economic security.
But we face challenges. The processed food environment.
Big challenges there. And the importance of preserving that traditional wisdom while also looking forward to personalized, sustainable nutrition. It's complex. But the core message is clear. Prioritizing your health through food isn't just a preference, it's an imperative, a strategic investment in yourself, your well-being, your future.
This has been incredibly insightful, really powerful stuff. So maybe the final thought for you, the learner, is this. Given everything we've explored today, what's one small, maybe, but significant shift you could make in your relationship with food, starting now? Something that might just ripple outwards, impacting not only your health, but your energy, your achievements, your whole future. Maybe take a moment to reflect on your own sources, your own insights, in light of our conversation. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.